to me, and I sat there thinking, it's good that you guys get to know the people around you, and since a lot of the younger people you don't really know really well, I asked Kristen if she would just share with you tonight some of the things that she has just kind of used as a strength to her faith, some of the things that have kind of helped to be foundational for her. So would you please welcome Kristen Beckwith as she comes up and recognize how this feels for her. If I asked you to do the same thing, how you would feel. Kristen, it's all yours. It's all yours. Yes. You want to sit? Go ahead. I sit.
I feel a little more comfortable.
Okay.
It's a much different perspective to actually look out at all you people, rather than to just be in there and be one of you. But yeah, back in, I think it was a little probably earlier than November, I approached Peter because I was interested in talking to all of you about some of the things that I mainly learned over what I would say this semester, as I took a semester off from school and focused a lot more on my work. And that did bring a time of tribulation for me in my personal life. And so as I went along this journey, I wanted to explain to you guys a little bit about something that I felt. So as I start all of this today, the main thing that I want to be on the top of your head is I want you to reflect upon a time that you felt really abandoned in some way. Whether it was by another person you knew, or a family member, friend, the time that you felt rejected, isolated, really like you just didn't fit in. Because this is something that became very familiar to me very fast over this semester. And I really wanted to share with you some of what I came across during this time, mainly sort of how the Lord worked in me and worked in my friends and through Peter and other people that I knew, and mainly this text that I'm going to be sharing a little bit about tonight. So I came across this book. It is called God's Crime Scene. As you might know, I'm a little bit of a nerd. So I usually pursue the nerdy things. So I'm going to try to not sound as much like a nerd as I can tonight to hopefully make it relatable. But it's called God's Crime Scene. It's by an author named J. Warner Wallace, who for the first 35 years of his life was a pronounced agnostic and a forensic analyst. And so I came across this text and I was like, I'm super interested in learning about whether it's apologetics or just the different things, since I grew up in such an academic school that was so focused on science is science and you can't go against science and God goes against science. And that was always the argument that I heard. And then I thought, well, maybe I can look into and see how the Lord is working in everything. And so I hope as I just take you through some things that might just sound really factual and really boring, or maybe it's interesting to you, I don't know. Depending on where you are in liking these kinds of things, it's sort of a personal thing sometimes. I just hope it can be an encouragement to you, because in no way am I trying to preach at you or just say, I don't think you know these things, so I'm going to tell you because you don't know. It's more so, this has been such an encouragement to me. I would really love for you guys to see where I'm coming from in this way. So I want to start by going sort of in an abrupt jump from what seems like personal anecdote to fact. So everything has a beginning, as we know. And so we as society look at things and we say that chair had a beginning. Somebody created that chair, we don't know who, we don't know how, we don't know why, but that chair is created. Everything, all of us, we are created. We don't know, every single person had a start. But the universe, it's just always been something. So we don't know how it started, it's just random events and random occurrences, all somehow it came together. Which doesn't make sense in the timeline of everything that we've ever known as a human race. So everything is either an impersonal cause or a personal cause. Meaning if it's impersonal, it's something that just happened randomly, doesn't matter, has absolutely no importance to our lives, ultimately. If it's a personal cause, that means there was an active agent choosing to make something happen. And so that really changes as we as Christians know where we stand today. So as some of you know, or might have seen, or the universe seems strangely fine-tuned. Even pronounced agnostic Paul Davies of ASU stipulates that, quote, everyone agrees that the universe seems to be fine-tuned for life. I wanted to bring you guys through some of these examples of fine-tuning to sort of show you the different ways that the universe is just so strangely put together, so specifically. So for example, this is a quote in the book, imagine stretching a measuring tape across the entire known universe. Now imagine one particular mark on that tape represents the correct degree of gravitational force required to create the universe that we have. If this mark was moved more than an inch from its location on a measuring tape spanning the entire universe, the altered gravitational force would prevent our universe from coming into existence. So that's one. Another one. Imagine trying to fire a bullet at a 1-inch target across the other side of the observable universe. The statistics of the accuracy required to accomplish such a feat has been calculated at 1 times 10 to the 60th power. Compare this to the precision required in calculating the mass density of the universe, which is 10 to the 59th power. I wanted to give a visual for this. This is what 10 to the 60th power looks like. So this just might look like a number to you. But this is... You're not wrong. But in comparison to this is how many people exist in the world today. About 7,800,000,000. So just to show you how incredibly precise it is that we would have the correct mass density for the entire universe as it is today. Or how about the position of our planet in the solar system? That's specifically placed around all these gas giants such as Jupiter, Neptune, that created so that meteors and asteroids don't hit our planet. Specifically created in that way to make it that somehow life was created on our planet, and life is sustainable on only our planet. And life that came out of not life somehow is sustainable on our planet. Transitioning to a little bit more of a molecular level, I wanted to bring you into something that I came across, again, a little bit nerdy, but it's called the bacterial flagellum. Some of you might have heard this one before, but I just thought it was so cool because my entire life I've grown up hearing natural selection, everything like that. It's science. But when you look at something that's so irreducibly complex, a structure that's so intricately designed, that's in every single one of us, it's in all bacterial cells. It's again, like, I printed these out from my printer, so it's not going to be that fantastic. But this is just an image of what it looks like. It's going to be difficult to see because it's very dull printer ink. But this is just an example. It's a motor on bacterial cells that propels it forward. The thing about the bacterial flagellum is it is known in science to be did I have that upside down? I don't think I did. To be irreducibly complex. So the fact that it is irreducibly complex, as described in here, well, first I have to go through a quote given by Charles Darwin himself in The Origin of the Species, where it states, "If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not have possibly been formed by numerous, successive, slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down." But you look into examples such as the bacterial flagellum that states there is nothing that could have happened, there's nothing that could be added to this, there's nothing that could be subtracted from this to make it functional. It has to be exactly as it is. There can't have been anything to exist prior to it that would have been considered a liability or just an unnecessary addition, because it needed to have been completed in one sweeping step to be functional, which really causes you to think, how could something have existed prior to it to create what exists today if it needed to be created exactly as it is at this point? That one really just gets your gears turning. And so it goes all the way from molecular level. You see something that's so intricate, so perfectly designed. But then you think about our minds. So our minds are more complex than microchips and computers and our phones that we hold in our hands. It's the most complex thing that we have, and we still don't understand completely how it works. But we need to have something to create law and order in the society that we have today. Or else, how do we have any example as to why I can't just steal something from somebody because I want it? So in this book, he gave the example of a gang member who had transgressed against another gang member. So in this society, it became accurate for, oh, I can do something back at him. But then that becomes an issue with the local law, because he transgresses against the local law. Local law reports to state law, reports to federal law, reports to the government, or to the executive branch, reports to the UN. Allegedly. So why does the UN get to be this utmost standard? Who are these people that are saying that I can or cannot do something because they say that I can't? What if I want to? He gives the example of the quote of, "Neither holds a superior position if there is no transcendent standard by which we can measure either of them." Meaning there needs to be somebody up there saying, this is what's wrong, this is what's right. He was describing in this passage the difference between Hitler and Mother Teresa. There is no way that we can differentiate either of them if we don't have anybody saying this is what's right and what's wrong. Because in other words, in order for us to get rid of the problem of evil in our society, all we have to do is change our opinion of it. And so I know for myself, I'm thinking about all these things, and I'm like, wow, how is it possible that everything is so specific and so complex and our minds are so intricate? It really just, for us as Christians, it doesn't just make you think, wow, science is whack. It makes you think, wow, there is an awesome God who did all of this. And that is the incredible thing. We are blessed to know the truth in this circumstance. We aren't floundering for a reason, for some scientific method, because we know at the end of the day who did it all. We know there is a creator who designed and manufactured every little piece, who put together every amino acid, who put all the planets in order. And he gave everything intense detail. So he made me a brunette with green eyes, and I love marketing. And the next person he made with blue eyes and a big nose who loves bicycles. So we're different people. And God created us with different interests, or gave us the possibility to pursue different interests, and gave us different physical characteristics. We are all intricately different. And you know what's even more intense and more powerful is that not only are we so intricate and different, but despite our hesitation to rely on God in every moment, and despite our willingness or our unwillingness to give to other people and our selfish nature, God still pursues after us. And he still loves us and says, you are my child, come back to me. I want to be your refuge. Let me be that for you. He calls after us. He offers us a relationship with him. This same God who designed everything from the gaseous elements of the atmosphere to the molecules that hold our bodies together as I speak. He is the one who loves us and sent his son to die for us for a price that we could not pay by ourselves. I want to include the quote from Psalm 77, 11 through 15 that says, I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old. I will ponder all your work and meditate on your mighty deeds. Your way, O God, is holy. What God is great like our God? You are the God who works wonders. You have made known your might among the peoples. You with your arms redeemed your people, the children of Jacob and Joseph. So I asked to speak today because I said that recently, or whether it was during the fall, during the winter, whatever it was, I felt abandoned by somebody. And I allowed myself in that moment to think that God had abandoned me as well. And I think a lot of us do that same thing. I have been so encouraged going through this. The Lord gave me this ability to read through this and see, wow, he's involved in everything. So why wouldn't he be involved in my life? I am a believer and I am a Christ follower. So he is there with me every step of the way. My life is far from perfect. I don't know what I'm doing. But he knows every detail. He knows all of it in the midst of that. So why shouldn't it be clear to me that I'm not alone? I was walking through these texts and I have been ever reminded that the God who creates the universe and everything in it calls me his own. So no matter what any of you are going through, I want to encourage you all today to know that the God who illustrates the sunsets at night is the same one who sent his son to die in your place. And so because of that fact, I keep dancing and I keep singing because I know it's him who's putting breath in my lungs every single day.
So vote for Kristen in 2025. I think hopefully you can see what just made me say I need to unleash Kristen on you. Because I love this the surety with which God took a young woman who I saw her as a baby. I mean, I've been here that long, right? But I didn't know that girl. And I don't know how many of you knew that girl that just spoke to you. That's worth knowing. But more importantly, the faith is worth just, again, being reminded that God is so good to take whoever we are, and He knows exactly what we need at just the right time to be able to take us from a difficult moment into a victory. And I think that's what I hear her saying, is that she has victory because of that. And sometimes we have to go back to the realities of what. It was interesting today because I had lunch with Richard, and Richard invited a guy named Drew that he works with. And so we sat down and had lunch together. And I started pumping Drew for information. And it was funny because I told Richard I had actually prayed this morning, having read whatever I read in my devotion time. And I do remember being there. And all of a sudden, because I work in the church all day long, so I don't get to actually see, real people. So here I am with a real person. And it was fun to just ask him about it, what he grew up with faith-wise, and God opened the door to be able to share the gospel with this guy that I'd never met before. And it just continually reminds me that, one, if we're open to it, and two, if God just deems it right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you that opportunity. But when we have the opportunity, it's kind of nice to go back to the kinds of things that she just shared with you, right? There's some realities that are just inescapable in our day and age. And if you can just grab one or two of them, and if you want to remember Kristen will give you her notes, I'm sure, just to kind of make that. So, Kristen, thank you. I praise God for growing you. I mean, that's a wonderful gift you gave us.
And thanks for her parents.
Who both just happen to be here. But thank you for saying that, Bulldog. I appreciate it. So.